You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your host, Keith Wheeler.
And Nuria Corby.
And what are we talking about today, Nuria?
Oh, today is another interesting topic, and it's when is it time to walk away? When do you walk away from your business or from what you're doing? And I think that's a really interesting topic because I think we've all done it. We've walked away from something at one point. Yeah. Have you walked away from anything before?
Yeah, we were just talking about this before we started recording, but I'm actually kind of bullheaded. So it takes a lot for me to walk away because I always have that what if mentality where, what if I walked away now, what could I have accomplished a month from now? And so it's always the not knowing that kind of keeps me stuck into it.
I think that is actually the same here, really. I mean, I don't like to walk away from things because I always think there's something that I haven't done, and that's why, I need to stick with it. But there comes a point sometimes when, it's not a negative thing to walk away from something. And the reason I kind of thought about this a lot recently is because a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but a few people contact me to say, what do I do? I've done KDP for I don't know how many years, and I'm not really getting to where I should be at this point. Should I just walk away? Should I try something else? What would you do? And it's always a difficult one to answer for me because, like I said, I mean, I try to really stick to things, but thinking back in the past, I have walked away from things, and I don't see it as a negative thing because it kind of meant that I pivoted to something else. And I remember the jewelry business. I mean, if I had known then what I know now about SEO and about keywords, I probably wouldn't have walked away from it because it would have worked a lot better then. But I didn't know about these things at the time. So it was limited in as far as I could take it. So I think that, and we talked about this briefly earlier, and we said, it's not just walking away. Sometimes it's just a pause in it, and then you may go back to it later. So it's definitely not something we should look at in a negative way. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's one reason why I say walk away versus quit, because quit has, such a strong finality to it. Whereas like you said, if you're walking away, who knows, 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, it might be something you can come back to. And I think I get people that ask me that, very similar questions. And it's hard for me because it's like, you don't want to be the one to tell them to quit, to tell them to walk away, and I always preface it with, that's a decision only you can make, but I will ask them certain questions to see, how, I think a lot of it just comes down to how much have you really, if you sit back and assess yourself honestly, how much have you really put into it? Have you really given it all you have? Have you really, given it enough time? Have you, put enough research into it? Have you, put enough effort into it? And, and then, do you enjoy it? And,
That's the one. Yeah.
Depending on those answers, that's when I'm like, you kind of answered yourself on whether you should walk away.
Yeah, that is absolutely. I was just going to say exactly the same thing because I ask the same questions. I say, how do you do your research? How long do you spend on it? Have you put in all the work that you could put in? And of course, the answer to that is always yes, because people genuinely believe that they have done all they can. But then the most important question is, do you enjoy it? And that's usually where I feel there's a disconnect somewhere, because some people will say, no, I don't enjoy it at all. And that is probably the reason why they haven't really connected with the business and made it work. But if they say things like, well, there are parts I enjoy and parts that I don't enjoy, that's fine, because that happens with everything,
Right, exactly.
So I think, but when somebody is really fed up and they're just going through the motions, and they're just doing it because they think there's a formula on how to do it. I publish X notebooks a day and I should be earning so and so. I do see those kind of people as well. And that's never going to work, because you'd have to be really lucky. That's like playing the lottery. That's not, there's no strategy. That's just, I don't know. I think you do have to connect with the business, and you have to enjoy it, and know what you're doing. What is my book trying to tell people? What is it good for? All of those things I think are really important. But yeah, most people will probably say, yes, I have done everything I could do. And in those cases, we can't make that decision for them. They have to really know if they want to try walking away for a while, maybe, and then get back to it later. I mean, that's always a good compromise, I think. Maybe walk away from it for a month or two and see if there's anything else that you can get on with better. The problem is when people are in need of making an income, and then obviously the pressure of it is really high, and that's not good either. But unfortunately, that's what it is in most situations. So yeah, it's a difficult question. There is no time, really, no best time to walk away. I think it just depends on whether you feel it's the right time or not, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is that people, they almost want, they reach out to us because they almost like they want permission. I want permission to quit. I want permission to walk away. And like I said, the word quit, has so many negative connotations to it, that people are, they don't want to be looked at as a quitter or whatever. So that's why, again, why I say walk away rather than quit. You brought up a really good example about, just kind of stepping away temporarily. I have actually done that for my YouTube channel before. I was just getting burnt out. And so I walked away for, I think it was probably about 3 months that I did a couple of years ago. And then I went back to it, and, because I did miss it, the passion that you once had for it, when it's gone, could resurface, and so that's a great way to know, if it's time, if it really comes down to, like, are you enjoying it? When it comes to the questions that we ask about, are you how much time are you putting into it, whatever, or are you putting enough time? I actually ask for more tangible things, like, how many hours are you working on it? How many, because they can say, oh yeah, I put plenty of time into it. How many hours do you work on it a week? I don't even say a day, because everybody's schedule is different, but if they're saying, they're working at it for an hour a day or an hour a week, that's not necessarily meaning you're giving it the attention it really needs in order to see success that you're looking for. You need to be realistic.
It will take longer. If the less time you spend on it, doesn't mean that you can't succeed, but it just means it will take you longer to succeed.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
But you can't put in, a minimal amount of time and expect maximum results. That's just, realistically not going to happen. And so we've talked about this in previous episodes, but you really need to set realistic expectations. Now, if you're putting in, a good amount of time, you're putting in the research, you're putting in, the effort, whether it's creating covers yourself or whatever, and you're still not seeing the results that you're looking for. Again, if you're not enjoying it, then I would definitely say step away from it for, a little while, however long that means for you. But because if you're not enjoying it, then chances are whatever time you are putting into it, you're doing it haphazardly, and you're not doing it at the full attention that you would if you were enjoying it.
Yeah.
And And so I think that's going to lead to insufficient results. But if if you really do enjoy it, and you are putting in the effort, and you're not seeing what you want to see, then I would say step back and ask yourself, what areas do you think are failing? Because if you know the industry that you're in, and you know what you're putting your time into, what you're putting your money into, whatever, and you know that what you're putting in is all you can do, you should know enough to know, my covers just aren't great, or I just can't seem to get the SEO down, or whatever it is. Maybe you're just in a super competitive niche, whatever that may be. And I've seen that issue with many people who, let's say children's picture books, their passion is writing picture books, and they've got great illustrations, but it's super competitive, and they don't have the money to run ads.
Yeah.
I completely understand that. I mean, I've been in that boat. And so it's really hard, because you know the passion is there, the desire is there, and the work ethic is there, but they're just not seeing the results that they want.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I completely get it.
It's also, I think, whether it's not just, are you putting in the time and the hours and the effort? It's also whether you're doing the same thing over and over, and you're not changing anything. Because if you, for example, if you are publishing books, and you've been publishing books for a while and you're not seeing the results, obviously then there is something that's not working for you. So like you said earlier, it could be the covers, it could be whatever it is, but you need to then do something differently. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. You have to sort of try and do something different. Maybe change your covers, maybe go down a different style of covers. I know a lot of people, when I see the books that they're producing, I can tell whether they're books that are going to sell or not going to sell, because sometimes the covers are just not that professional looking. But obviously, it's very difficult when you have created a book. And I know that from when I first created books, I thought my cover was fantastic, because I just created it, and I was so proud of myself almost for creating a book cover. I thought, wow, I've just created this amazing book cover. When I look at that book cover now, I think, oh my God, what was I thinking? This is really not up to standard. But those things only sort of come to you in time. You only really, it's after a lot of experience that you realize those things. So sometimes you just have to try something different. I tried that. I can't remember what it was. I had some planners or something, and they weren't selling. And I tried a different theme of covers, going down a different design theme. And they did a lot better. So sometimes it's just doing something, changing something, whether that's the design or whether that's the niche. The other thing that I keep talking about is branding as well. Like, if you're making a logbook, and then you make a children's book, and then you're making a planner, and then you make a notebook, there's no strategy there. There's no, it's not coherent. So pick one of those and really go into that and create a brand around it and try that way. So if you enjoy creating planners, for example, try and build a planner brand. Don't concentrate on any other books for a while. Just sort of make planners and make them the best you can make them in different niches, in different, for different requirements. That's an idea. Or you can do that with notebooks or with anything really, coloring books. Pick one type of book and see if that works for you. And if that doesn't work for you, then move on to another one. And if all of that still doesn't work, then maybe you do have to think about, is it time to walk away? Maybe just walk away for a little bit, or maybe pivot, instead of walking away completely. That's what I did when I was blogging. I really had to make the blogging business work, because otherwise I would have had to get another job, and I really didn't want to get another job. And I thought, I really want this to work. it was just really hard to make blogging work because I didn't know how to do affiliate marketing. I didn't have a following. There were all these things that I didn't understand, and it takes time to really understand them. So
Right.
I kind of pivoted to KDP, and that worked better for me. Why? I don't know. I don't know why that worked better. But sometimes you just have to find your thing. Sometimes you just have to try different things until you find the one that resonates with your audience or that resonates with you. It's not easy. I wouldn't say, um, I often think, all the videos that we make for people, do this and do this to publish your first book, it doesn't guarantee anything. It
Right.
is something that you have to try and then see how long it will take you to make a success of it. But I don't know. I mean, I can, like you said, I mean, people kind of ask us almost for permission to
Right.
walk away. And obviously we can't do that because that is such a personal decision. It's up to each individual to decide when is the right time for them to move away. But I think the advice I can give people is basically like what you said as well, just maybe walk away for a short time and then come back to it, because that way you're not completely leaving it and you're not completely
Right.
feeling like you've wasted your time, because nothing is ever a waste of time, in my opinion. You always learn something from whatever you do, and you might come back to it with a fresh way of thinking or fresh attitude, and sometimes that can work wonders. So I think that question, when is it time to walk away? I can't answer that, unfortunately, at all. It's just personal thing, really.
Right. It really is. It really is. I mean, you said so many great things that I agree with. And, one thing that you were talking about is, trying something different, that we always learn from, from past mistakes. And the truth is, we always learn from past mistakes, but not everybody does that. And I think that's the first thing is if something's not working, look at it with, and if you can't do it subjectively, then, have somebody else look at it and say, look, give me your honest opinion about this. And because only through that honesty will you learn something. And then ask yourself straight up, like, what did I learn from this? What can I learn from this? Because if I've known people who have published 1,000 books, low content, no content books, and their 1,000th one doesn't look much different than their first one, and they're all selling about the same, which is little to none. And so I'm like, okay, but what are you doing differently? Well, I'm not. But why are you creating 99 or 999 more of something that wasn't selling to begin with? Like, and it really comes down to just being honest. I mean, if you're serious enough about it to where you put that much time into it to create 1,000 of them, or however many, 100, 10, whatever it is for you, or the money you've put into it, you're clearly serious about it. So if you're serious about it, then you want to be successful. And so then you need to realistically look at it and say, what am I doing wrong? What can I do better?
I think you just said something that really resonated with me. You said that we tend to learn from our mistakes, but other people sometimes don't think about it. And that is so true, because a lot of people have got that attitude that when things don't happen for them, they think, oh, nothing ever happens for me. Either this whole thing is a lie, or it's a scam,
Right.
or it doesn't work. Or some people also think, oh, things just never happen to me, that things like that don't ever happen to me. And I think that is such a negative way of looking at
Right.
it, because
Yeah.
if it doesn't work for you, it's nothing to do with you. It's nothing, it's nothing to do with outside forces. It's within you to make it work, so you
Right.
have to kind of think about what is it that I'm not doing for this to work, because it's very easy to blame outside things. And I used to do it
Yes.
in the past, when I was a lot younger and I didn't know. I used to think, oh, well, maybe it doesn't work because so and so, there's too much competition, or there's too much this and that, that's looking outside of yourself, but the only way you can fix it is by looking inwards. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly, but
Yeah, no, I
it
get it.
kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, you have to ask yourself, what is it that I'm not doing that is hindering the situation? Or what is it that I'm doing that is hindering the situation? It's coming from you. It's coming, forget all the outside, forget competition, or because you can still sell things with a lot of competition around you. It's just another way that
Right.
you have to market it differently. But those are excuses, really. They are not, and we all make those excuses. I've made excuses like that in the past. My blogging business didn't take off because, oh, there's so many bloggers out there, no, that wasn't the reason why it didn't take off. I didn't know about SEO, and I didn't know about this and that. I know now why it didn't work. But
Right.
unless you ask yourself those questions, what didn't I do? Or what did I do that is the wrong thing to do? You really have to delve into that. So yeah, when you said that, I suddenly thought that is so true. Not everybody has that mindset.
Right.
I
And
think,
unfortunately, not everybody wants to do that, sometimes deep psychological,
yeah,
you search within and say, or just the simple admission that maybe I'm not really doing everything I can. May, um,
yeah,
just because you're spending a lot of time doing something doesn't mean you're spending a lot of time efficiently doing something.
mm,
Doesn't mean that you're doing it properly. I mean, when my daughters, or all my kids really, when they were in sports, there was this saying that the coaches would always say, and that's practice makes perfect, practice makes perfect. And that's not true. I've seen people like I've seen people practice incorrectly, and
mm,
all that does is it makes them continuously do things wrong.
yeah,
If you've got, if you're playing baseball and you've got a bad swing, and you practice that bad swing, 5 hours a day,
yeah.
5 days a week, you're just going to have a really, really, really good bad swing, and so it really comes down to, it's what I used to tell the kids is, perfect practice makes perfect,
Yeah.
and it's funny is because when you're doing something efficiently, you don't even have to spend as much time doing it,
Mm,
you know? And so you really need to just ask yourself realistically. And again, it goes back to, looking at your book baby and saying, is that cover really a good cover? Compare, I talk about it all the time, but you put it in a thumbnail size, go on Amazon and compare it to the other thumbnails in your niche.
mm,
Um, whatever it is, you need to ask yourself, am I really giving it all I can? You know, and I know people are on a super, have a, busy schedules and things like that. So I'm not saying you have to spend, hours a day. Some people I know are being very successful self-publishing books, and they're spending 4 hours a week or whatever. It really comes down to, making sure that the time you are spending, that you're spending, in ways that are actually going to, what some people say, move the needle. It's
yeah.
actually going to, positively affect your business. And so I really think that, as hard as it is, we really need to all make that internal look at ourselves and say, are we putting the effort into it that it needs? Are we putting in, sometimes if you don't have time and you got a little bit more money, I stopped making book covers a long time ago. Was I able, I made some really good book covers.
Mm,
Most of my book covers were okay.
mm,
Okay books don't sell very well,
yeah.
and so, I mean, you can have the greatest book in the world, but a crappy cover,
Mm,
And so you really need to just, as hard as it is, look at yourself and say, and if you don't want to, if you honestly are saying, I don't want to be honest with myself, I don't want to do that. Well, then that kind of answers your question on whether you should walk away.
mm,
Because if you're not passionate enough about it to make it a success or do everything you can to make it a success, then you kind of already have walked away, right?
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. But then on the other hand, I also think, I always love to encourage people to not walk away, because I also think
Agreed.
that sometimes that's all that's missing. Sometimes people just feel discouraged, and they feel like no one's supporting them. Maybe their
Hmm.
family doesn't really understand what they're doing. Maybe
Right.
maybe they're being told that, oh, you'll never make that a success because that's just pie in the sky and it's not real, and that goes on as well. And then for those people, I really don't want them to give up, because
No.
I know they've got it in them, and I know
Hmm.
they can do it. And so it's a very difficult situation to be asked, when should I walk away? Should I walk away? Or do you think I should? Oh, that's just, I don't want to discourage anybody, because it just depends where they are, and they know themselves best. They know, each person, I hope, knows themselves better than anybody, and
Hmm.
sometimes they just need that bit of encouragement to not walk away and then make it. I
Yeah.
could have walked away a few times and I didn't, and lucky I didn't, really.
Right.
So
And
yeah.
I agree. And I think that's one reason why I love this podcast so much, is
Mm,
because, I try to, and I know you do as well, try to be as transparent as possible.
yeah.
I want people to know that they're not alone. You know, there, I had a way more failures even to this day than I have successes. You
Hmm.
know, it's just, trying to, again, like we said earlier, learn from each of those failures, and continuously get better. Pivot if you need to. But I think that's one of the big things is, and you don't see a lot of that on in social media. You don't see a lot of it on,
Yeah.
YouTube or whatever. People are telling you, do this, do this, do this. And no one's really saying, but realistically, it's not always going to work out. What
Yeah.
works for you may not work for me. I've got people who, and this really happened once I hit 10,000 subscribers, is they literally just started copying my stuff because my stuff was selling. And then, so now people look at my, they'll search me up on Amazon and they'll say, your books have terrible BSRs. And that's because I don't put, I don't run ads to those most of the time or
Mm.
anything like that, because I, there are people out there that are just copying it, and
Yeah.
and they're asking, why are they not seeing the success I saw?
Yeah.
And you can't compare that. It's,
No.
first of all, if you copied mine, then the chances are your passion for that is way lower than my passion was.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
really, there's a lot of misunderstandings, and I think that many people that are in self-publishing are introverted, and they may be isolated when it
Mm.
comes to. I mean, they could have the most love. I mean, I have the most loving family, that I could ask for, but with the exception of my oldest son, who self-publishes books as well, they don't
Mm.
get it, you know,
Yeah.
and because they don't get it, it's very easy to have a loving home, great friends, and still feel isolated.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's super important to understand that you're not alone, that there's an
Mm.
entire, and I know we've done episodes about this, but there's an entire world out there of
Yeah.
self-publishing authors, ones that want to self-publish, ones that already have, ones like us that have been doing it for years, that want to help, that want,
Mm.
that want to give advice. And so if your only reason for thinking about walking away is because you you're down and you don't have anybody to talk to about it, and maybe you don't know what you're doing wrong. You've
Yeah.
looked at it, everything looks fine. Reach out, and we've talked about this multiple times, but reach out to our Facebook groups, reach out to, us on social media or whatever, or other people. I mean, we're not the only ones out there,
Yeah.
you know, and really understand that, like I said, you're not alone out there. I've seen many people, and I've heard many people say, I must be doing something wrong.
Mm.
I must be doing something wrong because, you know, uh, all these people are saying that, that this is an easy way to make money, easy way to make passive income. And I'm not, and I've been doing it for a year or whatever, then I must be doing something wrong. So I'm just going to walk away.
Mm.
And I never want that to be the reason why people walk away.
Yeah.
If you're not enjoying it anymore, if you're not enjoying the process anymore, obviously no one's going to enjoy not seeing results.
Yeah.
That's always going to be defeating. No one enjoys seeing negative reviews. I try not to pay attention to them too much, but they still bother me from time to time. Actually, I have this as a reminder when it comes to my low star reviews. Is a fun fact. I don't care. And it's not true because I do care, and
Yeah.
again, we've talked about this where, I read all the negative reviews so I can learn from them. But if that's the reason why you're thinking about walking away, then I strongly, strongly advise that you really reconsider.
Mm.
I have never told anybody, yes, I think you should walk away. Because again, like we said, that's something that only you can really answer.
Yeah.
But I have told many people that I don't think they should.
Mm.
Um,
That's
and and I think maybe that's a good question to ask yourself. Why do you want to walk away? Why are you thinking of walking away? Because I think the answer to that in and of itself will give you a lot of clarity.
yeah. And I think, you said something earlier about people say, oh, it's an easy way to make money and I'm not seeing any results. But it is an easy way to make money. It's just not a fast way to make money,
Yes.
So I think there's a big difference there. I think people, when they hear it's an easy way to make money, they think it's going to be happening quickly, but it
Right.
doesn't happen quickly. It can take years for some people. But then afterwards, once it starts working, you think back and you think, well, yeah, it's much easier than working down a mine or working in a restaurant or, any of those things. I much rather do this but it's not fast. It's just not a way to make money quickly. And I think that is a big thing that people need to consider as well when they're thinking of walking away. Have they given it enough time as well? Have they waited long enough? Have they, I don't know. I mean, there's so many questions you could ask yourself before you even think about walking away. And like you, I would never ever say to someone, yes, leave it and walk away, because that just doesn't, it's not in my nature. But I would say, like you said, ask yourself some questions, and
Right.
a lot of those questions are, have I done my best? Is there anything that I could do differently? Have I been
Right.
doing the same thing over and over? Those are the kind of things that I would ask myself before considering walking away. And if you really can't think of anything else that you can do, and you feel like it's the right thing to do to walk away, then maybe think of it as it's still there in the background. I can still come back to it later. It's not wasted time, because a lot of
Right.
people, I also feel they kind of said, have I been wasting my time? And I always say, definitely not. You've definitely not wasted your time, because I'm sure you've learned a lot during that time. And
Right.
that is something, no money can buy. People spend years and years studying to be a doctor or to be a lawyer, or, and they don't expect to make money quickly either.
Right.
They put in years of work before that happens. So we should look at this in the same way. It does take a long time, and you have to learn a lot along the way. You're not a born writer or a born book publisher. It's something that you have to learn.
Yeah. No, that's, and getting back to the questions, I really think that one of the first questions you should ask yourself is, why do you want to walk away? Because
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, the main answer is going to be, I'm not seeing the success I want, or I'm
I'm
not
not
seeing what I
earning the
expected.
money. I'm not
I'm
earning.
not earning the money. I'm not selling the books, whatever. And then once you have that, because if your answer is because I don't enjoy it, then, if that's your answer, that's why you want to quit, or that's why you want to walk away, then you kind of answered yourself right there. But, if it's anything other than that, that's when you can start asking those, what we in market research call probing questions, where you're asking yourself, well, how much time have I put into it? How much energy? How much, what have I learned? What do I still, what am I good at with this? because I always like to focus on the positive. What am I good at? Am I great at the research? What do I enjoy? Do I enjoy the research? Because I know you and I both love research. That's the one aspect that we absolutely love. Um, with the exception of writing books, when it comes to no content, low content books, I love the research more than I love the creation of it sometimes, many times.
And we're not
But
talking, I think we should say that we're not talking about research of how much search volume is there, how much it's
right,
actually researching the topics, isn't it? That's
right.
what you
Yes,
mean.
researching
Yeah.
the topics, researching the niche
Yeah.
that you're in, or the niche that you're gonna go in. And this is for people who create no content, low content books, as well as those who create, written products, written books. And so, how much research are you putting into it, into learning more about it? Obviously, this is one reason why we always suggest, especially when you're starting out, to focus on a niche that you're passionate about, because it minimizes the amount of research you have to do,
Yeah.
which gets you into the creation process a lot quicker. But I really think that one of the first questions you should ask yourself, if you're thinking that maybe you want to walk away, ask yourself, why do I want to walk away? Why am I even considering it? And it could be, some people have a set monetary amount. I need to make X amount of dollars a month. Okay. Well, then ask yourself after that, if I'm not making enough money, I need to make X amount of dollars a month. What are you doing on a weekly basis or whatever, or on a book basis to get to that amount? What do you have to do to get to that amount? Because many times it really comes down to obviously putting out good products, and then you figure out the royalties that you're making per book sold, and then you can just do the math from there. How many books do I have to have in order to make X amount of dollars a month? It really comes down to the math at that point. But again, it really starts with, why are you considering walking away?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when you said we enjoy niche research, and what made me think there is because I do get people when they say, should I give up? I do ask that questions, how do you do your research? I check what the search volume is. And that's not what I meant by research. I meant, what do you know about the niche? What do you know about, if the niche is making a planner for a working mum with children, what do you know about the working day of a mother with children? Are you in that position yourself? And if not, have you researched that? What do people do? That's a bad example, but it's the only one I could think of just now.
Right.
But, it's like, what do you know about the topic that you're writing about, or that you're creating a book about? And I think people are so focused on the figures and the data and,
Yes.
how many, what's the search volume for this one? How many competitors are there? What are the BSRs? Do you know, I don't even look at those things anymore. I mean, I should be, but if I like the topic, I go for it. I don't look at, is it really that? Because I get excited by the topic rather than, and I look at the reviews that people leave
Yes.
for my competitors, because I think that gives you a much better picture than anything else, So I just thought, when you said, the research, it just made me think of all the people that said, oh yes, I research very thoroughly. I make sure that they have less than 20,000 search volume, blah, blah. And that's not what I meant by research, because that is not, there's no formula, I would say. I mean, there's basic things that you should consider, but it's not one of the big things. I think researching the niche or the topic is so much more important. And sometimes I realize that people don't actually know much about that topic. They're creating a book, but they're going by the sales data rather than what the actual book is about. And I think that is the wrong way to look at it. And I can see why they're not successful then. So that contributes to the feeling of, should I walk away? Because they're not understanding what the customer wants, really.
Right.
But it's such a fine line. But I think you made some really good points about the kind of questions people should ask themselves before they give up. And I said, give up, because instead of walking away,
Yeah.
you can give up or walk away. I don't see it as a negative either way. It's pivoting. It's doing something else. If one thing doesn't work, you go on to something else. That's not a bad thing.
Right. Yeah. A good example is, for me is I was self-publishing. I was doing merch by Amazon.
Mm,
And so I was creating t-shirts and stuff like that. And I didn't I know for a fact, because I did that internal search, and I know I just wasn't enjoying it.
yeah.
Um I didn't have the skill set to actually create anything more than a text-based, shirt, which those sell. Um but even the research of it, I just wasn't enjoying it. And so I stepped away from it. I still have stuff that's up there, I'll still publish, new things from time to time. So it's not like I completely abandoned it, and it still brings in money.
Mm,
I'm actually starting to come back to it,
yeah.
and so again, that's why I say walking away versus quitting, because again, it's always there, it's not going to go away. And so, yeah, that's just one example of what I've done. And there are a lot of similarities, things that I've learned in the KDP world that transitions, because it's still Amazon, so it transitions over very nicely to something like Merch by Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, in any case, I think if you're asking yourself, should I walk away? It's a positive question in a way, because it shows that you are thinking where this is going to go, where you're going
Right.
to take this, and you're in total control. You can either
Mhm.
take this further or you can pivot and go on to something else. So I don't look at it as a negative thing at all. I think that for me, it's always been a step forward. If I've pivoted onto something else, or I walked away, you could call it walking away from something, it's still there. I could still go back to it,
Right.
but I just enjoyed something else more. And it's funny because we say, we're saying to ask the question, do you enjoy it? And if it wasn't for KDP and creating books, I wouldn't even know that you can enjoy work. Because every job I've had in the past, I can't say that I've enjoyed it, but
Right.
this one I really enjoy. So now I know what it is to enjoy my
What you do.
work. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't have asked myself that question before, funny enough. I should have done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are in that boat. And
Yeah.
and because if you don't enjoy it, uh, life is too short to do something you don't enjoy.
Yeah.
And I know many people out there already have a full-time job, and they're doing this as a side hustle because they want it to be their full-time job, and they want to be able to quit fire their boss.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're doing this, whatever this is, whether it's KDP or it's, merch by Amazon, or whatever your business is, Etsy, if you're not enjoying it, if it's just another job, then chances are you could probably just get a second job and and make more money, you
Yeah.
know? So it really does come down to enjoying it. And if you don't enjoy it, then ask yourself, what about it you're not enjoying? Because it could be something as simple as, I don't enjoy the, creating the book covers. Well,
Mm.
then maybe you can hire somebody to do the book covers.
Mm.
If there's certain aspects that you don't enjoy, fun fact, I don't enjoy doing the taxes part of it, but but I enjoy most of the other parts.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy the getting the 1 or 2 star reviews.
Yeah.
Okay, well then don't pay attention to those.
Mm.
Have somebody in your family read those, and then maybe they can jot down the things that, actual notes, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't have to look at them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in general, if you don't enjoy any of it, well then, like I said, because I'm never going to say you should walk away, but I will say I think you've probably already answered your question.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think majority of the people that are thinking of walking away, there's probably just one, maybe 2 or 3 things that they could tweak that would
Yeah.
completely change things around for them. And I think, for many of them, like we were saying earlier, it's really just they feel alone. They feel like they don't have anybody they can talk to about it. They don't, nobody else understands what they're going through. Nobody understands why they're spending this much time doing something, away from the family, or, instead of going out on a Friday night, they're, doing research or whatever. They don't get it. And so, yeah, I can understand that. I really can. And, that's again, when I would say there are plenty of other people out there that are literally in the same boat, or that have already been there and have learned from that, like you and I have. And so I would say, don't hesitate to, whether it's a Discord channel or a Facebook channel or just sending an email to us, whatever. I know for the podcast, there's, in the show notes, there's our email addresses in there. And also, if you're watching this on the old YouTube, then our email addresses should be in the description there as well. So,
or leave a comment.
Or you can just, I was gonna say, or just leave a comment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think I think you've summed it up nicely, because it's really about reaching out. If you're not sure, reach out and see what somebody else can maybe help you, or maybe think of it in a different way. So all of those things can help. But yeah, I'll never say to anybody, walk away from it, and I know you won't either. But sometimes you do have to think about it a little bit deeper. But usually there's a solution for that, So it's definitely all about encouraging other people and finding a way to make it work.
Right. Well, this has been another great mastermind, Nuria. Once again, a huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's mastermind, please consider following or subscribing to the podcast, and maybe even leave us a review and let us know what you thought. Until next time, I'm Keith Wheeler.
And I'm Nuria Corby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.